exciting. And then the second area category, or the third category, is savings. And for those of you who are, in debt and really ready to get out of debt and get focused, I encourage you, first of all, if you don't have it, to save $1,000. Get that saved. Focus on saving $1,000 and then work on getting out of debt. Once you have that $1,000 saved, then your focus is driving, getting out of debt. And one of the studies that I follow is they even instruct you not to do any investing or anything until you're out of debt. A lot of people think, well, I got my job and they'll match me, my 401k, they'll match it X amount of percent. I'm going to, participate in that. But actually, the teachings of this other financial advisor advises that you not do any investing until you've gotten out of debt. So you're listing, now for your expenses. I'm just going briefly through pulling a budget together. You're going to next, after you list your income, and you put your giving at the top, and you start your saving because you're working on a goal to save $1,000, the next area is your monthly expenses. And those are your fixed expenses. And what I mean by fixed expenses, I'm basically talking about expenses that don't change. It's the same amount every month. So that would be maybe your mortgage. That's the same every month. I know we have other bills that are the same no matter what every month. So that's your fixed. Then you have your variable expenses. Your variable expenses are expenses that fluctuate. It could be your gas bill. Now we know that in the wintertime our gas bill shoots high. I mean, we've been fortunate because of the weather. But sometimes we can have outrageous gas bills in the wintertime. But in the summertime, it may be the electric bill because of the air condition. So those are fluctuating variable expenses. So you're literally going to list all of your expenses, and then you're going to also list your debt. And your debt is anything that you carry a balance on. So your utility bill is not considered a debt. It's an expense because it's ongoing unless you're 3 months behind in your utilities. But if you're not, then the utilities is a variable expense. But your debt, of course, would be your car. It would be loans that you have. Any type of debt that you have to pay that you have a balance. Those are your debts. So you would list that on your sheet, and you would list it from smallest to greatest. And then there's the sinking fund. The sinking fund is basically expenses that come about. Say, I'll give an example for those of you who celebrate Christmas. You know that Christmas comes every year in December. People spend thousands of dollars in December. What you can do is create a sinking fund where you can divide $1,000. Okay, we're getting ready to start March. So you divide it by how many months we have left. So we have 10 months left. And you literally are putting $100 in for the next 10 months. So in December, when December gets here, because it comes, for real it does, you'll have already your $1,000. If you're planning a vacation next year, you can start saving now. Divide how much you think you're going to spend on that vacation, divide it by the 12 months, or how many months it is before you go on that vacation, and start putting it in that sinking fund. And that fund could be a money market fund, where you can a money market account at your bank, you can go right to the bank and open up a money market account and throw that money right in there. All right? And so that's the aspect of creating your budget. A lot of people use the envelope system. And that system is basically where, and we sort of use it. We use it for our groceries. We know we allot a certain amount of money for the month for groceries. And we take that cash out and put it in an envelope. And we spend it throughout the month. Now, when that envelope is empty, well, we don't have no more grocery money, so we have to wait till next month. Or Doug goes in his own personal stash sometimes and get the money out. But this is what you need to do. If you have certain certain expenditures that you have, then you need to do the envelope, I suggest that you do the envelope system rather, where you put aside, you take out that cash for that particular amount, because this is how you're controlling your budget so that you don't overspend. You're controlling your budget by basically putting your money in envelopes. You've already assigned X amount of dollars for this. If you know that your son has a birthday coming up in whatever month, then you're putting that money aside for it. So when that month comes, you have that envelope, and this is what we're spending on the birthday. Now, you may see something else and you want to go beyond that, but it is advised that you stay within. Oh, Cheryl got her envelope. Sis Cheryl got her envelope. What category is that? Down and out?
Junk money.
Oh, junk money. Or as my husband would say, that's his monkey money. Yeah. But that's the envelope system. And then finally, I encourage you, which is C. C is my final comment here, is to commit to getting out of debt. Because our nation is so far in debt, and debt is the norm, we really want to not be normal. I want this group not to be normal. Any debt that you have, accelerate it, get it paid. Those cars that you have, get them paid for early. Don't wait. Because what happens is, you wait until you can pay it off, say how many years you have left, then it's time to buy another one. Then you go right back into debt to get another one. So have the mindset that I don't want to have any debt whatsoever. And it can be done. Cynthia is a prime example. She's debt-free, including her home. So she can probably get up here and teach this. Because that's an awesome place to be. And I just want to share a brief testimony before I share that. With the debt, you have to be, in getting out of debt, you have to be disciplined. And definitely focused and determined to get out of debt. You have to make up in your mind, I don't want to be normal. No more. The world is normal, but I don't want to be normal. Yes?
I just have a quick question. You know, I have the mindset of that, but my husband, he's a spender. So how do you really balance that when he's the one that, you know, and you're trying to, you know.
Right.
Like with my income, I'm out of debt, but he's not. So
okay.
It's like.
So that means you all are not out of debt.
Right. We pay off credit cards that he put in that. You know, so it's
right.
like a cycle. And it's at a point like I'm tired of the cycle. And right. So I want to just
say, this is your,
yes.
But you're one. And so when you're
yeah.
one, you know, it's like, number one, well, I would say you have to pray.
Yeah.
Because only God can change his heart. And
yeah.
really, and what I've learned, and I've strategically done, is I start leaving material out, okay. or books, yeah. or information out about budgeting. I started listening to talk shows about getting out of debt and saving money. And we would be riding in the car, and I started listening to it. Then I found out my husband was listening to it at work. Okay. I was like, oh, okay. So God will give you wisdom
yeah.
of how to do it instead of, you know, fussing and fussing and fussing.
Right.
It's just ask God for wisdom to help, you know, and touch your husband's heart, that he would see, you know, even if you have this conversation, babe, let's do a study on what God says about debt. You know, I was at this event and, you know, this lady started talking about this and see what he says. Or another thing is, we're not getting any older. What are your plans for retirement? Where do you want to be? How much do you want to have? What are your goals for retirement? This is what I really would like for us to do. I would like for us to be able to travel, or I would like for us to be able to whatever, and have that conversation with him, and that'll put something in his mind. There's a book that I'll recommend that I just started reading, and my husband's reading it. It's called Retired Inspired, and it's an excellent book written by Chris Hogan, who talks about, you know, planning for retirement, and, you know, basically uses the same principles of getting out of debt, staying out of debt, but even just getting that book and kind of putting it in, you know, somewhere where your husband happened to pick it up and look at it. And as you're praying in secret, the Lord will work it out. That's my answer. Anybody else have any comments to her question or any suggestions? No?
We'll talk.
Okay. Alrighty. Finally, I talked about, I wanted to just kind of hit on the snowball effect of paying your debt. the snowball effect is you start with the smallest debt. So say you have, say, 4 major bills that you want to pay off. Maybe you have 2 cars and 1 student loan and one other thing. And so what you do is you list the smallest to greatest. Once you have that list, you pay the minimum on the 3 bottom ones. And that top one, you attack it with the dividends. So that means you're going through your budget, finding extra money. Maybe you go through your assets and see what you can sell and attack that. Once that one is paid off, you're continuing to pay the minimum on the second, third, and fourth, but you're also adding what you paid off of the first one on the second one and attacking that. And when you start seeing that debt disappearing, you're going to get excited. And you're going to find ways to pay even the rest of them off quicker. So that's called the snowball effect. And just a quick testimony as it relates to becoming debt-free is my husband bought a car in December, on December 14th. He purchased a vehicle, and I was like, because we haven't had any car notes in a while, and I was like, okay. Even though we had just gotten my vehicle a couple of years ago, we were blessed to pay it off. So we discussed paying this particular vehicle off. So he got it in December. We put a nice lump sum on the car, and we financed the rest through our credit union. And so his interest rate was 0.75%, around that. So number one, that was really, really low, which was good. So our payment, his payment was only going to be like $200 and something a month for 2 years. So he said, we're going to pay this off in a year, or 6 months to a year. And I was like, oh yeah, we're getting ready to attack this. So we were focused, we were determined, and we had a plan. But on January, as I did the budget for January, I was looking at our numbers, and I said, my husband came home one morning, one Saturday morning, I said, you want to pay this off today? And he was like, can we? I was like, yep. And he was able to go to the bank that day and pay that car off. And our note wasn't due until February 3rd. So that's what when you budget and you have your money in order, you don't have to be in debt. You can come up with plans and you find money that it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we can move this here and do this here. Boom, we're debt free. And so that's our goal. So the money that we were going to put on the car, we actually doubled it, and now we're putting it on our house. So our goal in the next 5.5 years is to have our home paid for. And that's our goal. And so we're focused, we're determined. And so I'd like to encourage you to really think about debt, not the way the world thinks about it, or this nation thinks about it. Don't be normal, but make up in your mind when you leave this place today that you are going to get out of debt. Thank you for your time.
So who's feeling inspired now to be debt-free? All right. The first time I heard her talk about this, we all have our crosses to bear. And I did go home and had a few conversations with my wife, who's joined us, about how can we do this? Because as I look at where we are, the good news is I actually have a positive net worth because we've invested in some assets, but we still have some debt. And so we are, how can we get some things taken care of? Because and what I want to talk about is about building wealth. There's some things that I want to be able to do, and it's not just about me. It's about that little guy that y'all kind of saw snake through here. I want him to have a life that allows him to make different choices than what I had to make growing up. Because I want him to be able to give that same life to his child. We are recording this, so I'm going to keep this comment very clean. But one of the political candidates right now, the only reason he is who he is because his daddy gave him a whole lot of dirty money. Right? Right? Right. And he boasts about being wealthy and successful, and he's had multiple failed ventures. But he had options. He had options. So that's what I'm going to talk to you guys about today. I want to talk about how do we create, protect, and then transfer wealth. So, Kimberly mentioned this earlier about what is your plan for the future. Many of us in this room are probably closer to retirement than we are to the day that we first started working. So is your plan to hit the Illinois lottery?
Yeah.